Hey, I'm Olivia, and you're listening to Soarin' Around WDW. All right, Flight Crew, we are back this week to continue our journey with Animal Kingdom in our Parks of the Present series. And initially, I had thought that this would be our last episode of the series. But again, as I started to look at things and got into a deeper dive, I realized there was a lot more information here than I anticipated. So we'll be splitting this one into two episodes and finishing out Animal Kingdom with our next episode. So to start off this second part of Animal Kingdom, we are going to begin in Pandora, and that is with the Navi River Journey attraction that opened with the Pandora expansion on May 27th, 2017. So this ride takes guests through the Casvepen River of Pandora from the obvious 2009 film Avatar. And WDW Magic's website description described this ride as boarding a hand-woven reed boat that is provided by Alpha Centauri Expeditions, and guests journey down the Caspavan River into the colorful bioluminescent rainforest. After a Navi scout greets guests on the shore, the boat passes by viper wolves, hexapeds, wood sprites, panopira, and fan lizards. After passing under leaves and creatures that are hopping between, the boats come across a Navi tribe and their dire horses walking to a ceremonial site. Passing by a waterfall, guests see the shaman of songs leading the Navi into a musical celebration of their bond with Iwa. After this encounter, the boats enter a cave with various offerings and return to the loading docks. So during this ride, the Shaman of Songs sings lyrics written in the Navi language, which was created by Dr. Paul Frommer from the 2009 film. Dr. Frommer posted the lyrics on his blog in 2017 for this song that he's singing in the attraction. And this ride, so I've ridden it a couple of times, only once with Eiley. Blake has not been on this yet. And honestly, I was extremely disappointed. It was a huge letdown for me. Have you been on this, Dad, or have you seen YouTube footage of it? I don't know if you've been back to Animal Kingdom since this opened.
Yes, it's been a long time since I've been to Animal Kingdom. Much to the shock of your listeners, I have not been to Pandora yet. I've seen lots of YouTube videos about it, and I've heard from many people, including yourself. If I had to pass on this one, it probably wouldn't break my heart.
Yeah. Have you seen the Avatar movies?
Yes, I saw the original in 2009 in theaters uh, with David, Doreen's son, and Doreen, and we saw it. And it did absolutely nothing for me. I'm not a big sci-fi guy. I mean, the movie itself was amazing. All the technology used just to make the movie was really incredible. But the whole thing just never. It was a really long movie, super long movie,
Yeah.
and I was ready to go when it was over. And I was surprised Disney actually did this land. I'm still very surprised they did a land like this. But yeah, it did nothing for me.
Yeah, I saw the original movie. I think I didn't see it in theaters. I saw it after it came out onto DVD, or I don't think they were streaming back then like that. So in 2010, I watched it. And I remember thinking it was very long. The plot was kind of hard for me to follow with all like the unique names. And yeah, the CGI at the time was like, next level, really incredible. We did not see the second movie. And we are also surprised that this got its own land, but it is extremely popular, which we'll get into. But this attraction, the last animatronic is incredible. And in 2017, that was huge high tech. It really reminds me of today's Tiana animatronics, just how fluid he is. I mean, you can barely tell if you look at pirates and the way they're kind of moving robotically, and then you look at him. I mean, it looks very lifelike, which is awesome. But we got to that part and we're like, okay, what's coming next? And that was like it. And that was kind of the only big animatronic in the ride. And it just really didn't, I don't know, it just didn't, it was not worth it to me. I wrote it in 2021. We waited almost an hour for it, and Eiley fell asleep in my arms in the line. So I held her, with my arms, like with her head in one side, her feet over the other for an hour, thinking, okay, this is going to be some mind-blowing ride. And we got on the boat. And I was like, okay, this is really pretty, all the lights, and it's dark in there. It's kind of calming music. And the music was all like relaxing. And then I realized like that was it. And so yeah, it was a huge letdown for me. I just wish they would have done something else with this space. I think an entire section for just Pandora was a bit of a stretch. There's so many other things that could have fit in Animal Kingdom. And so yeah, it was extremely disappointing to me. So then moving on to Flight of Passage, the sister ride to this. And this also opened May 27th, 2017, when this Pandora universe opened. And this is a 3D flying simulator with cast Allison Blanchard as Dr. Ogden and David Danipour as Dr. Stevens. And work on this Flight of Passage ride actually started back in 2012 and involves staff from Walt Disney Imagineering as well as James Cameron's Lightstorm Entertainment and Weta Digital. And all of the footage in the ride is actually original. And executive producer Amy Jupiter said, "Everything you see in that attraction's main show was original just for this production. We were fortunate enough to be able to use the mode and texture assets from the first film during our templating and visualization process. We are also able to use animation cycles for our background characters. And Weta Digital provided the main ride film footage, which is really cool. So it's not like they just pulled scenes from the movie, they made this unique to the ride." From an article that was written in Forbes magazine, the ride was described as in the attraction's storyline, the humans are and Navi are attempting to restore the Banshee population to natural levels after the mining tactics caused by the Resources Development Administration, or RDA, generations prior. Alpha Centauri Expeditions, or ACE, has reactivated the Avatar program through the Pandora Conservation Initiative as a method of conducting research and allows guests to link with an avatar, to fly on an Ikron, known to humans as Banshee, to participate in the Navi's tribal coming of age tradition. So, this attraction has a very unique storyline. Again, it's original to the actual ride, which is really cool. But the Avatar Flight of Passage ride was actually ranked in the Amusement Today's Golden Ticket Awards for the best new ride of 2017, with 15% of the vote to come in second place overall. The ride also won a 2018 Visual Effects Society Award for Outstanding Visual Effects in a Special Venue Project. Unfortunately, for people like myself who are easily prone to motion sickness, this ride will probably get you. I have to kind of close my eyes the entire time now. And the first time I rode this in 2021, we barely waited because it was COVID time. So we maybe waited 30 minutes, which is amazing because back when this ride opened, it had hours long wait times. And today is still almost always longer than an hour wait. So my mom and Latoya took Eiley with my nieces to go to the little conservation station and petting zoo area, and Maddie and I went to go on some rides by ourselves. So we first went to Expedition Everest, and then we went to Flight of Passage. But when we got to Everest, there was literally a 0 minute standby wait. I think it was listed as like 5 minutes. But again, this was COVID time, so no one was in the parks. So we rode it again and then one more time, which was a big mistake. So because of the pandemic and having a baby, we hadn't been into a theme park in a few years, and I felt so sick. I was immediately like, that was a horrible idea. Why did we just ride that 3 times in a row? And we immediately headed over to Flight of Passage, and I felt like my head was going to spin out of control. I had a horrible headache. I felt so nauseous, and that was all before getting on Flight of Passage. Then we rode Flight of Passage, and I felt worse. And I don't do well with screens and motion. That's like, Star Tours, the Millennium Falcon, any of those kinds of rides always get me worse than anything else. And so I really hated the ride. And I opened my eyes during that experience and again felt sick. So every time I've done it since then, I actually close my eyes the entire time, which kind of defeats the entire purpose of the ride. But the only reason that I have ever ridden it again was because of the challenge. Now, I probably would go on it again with Eiley, but it would have to be like the first ride of the day because I just like can't do stuff back to back like that. But yeah, so you've seen videos of this attraction and kind of the way that it works with the theater dad and how, I mean, it's really big. It seats like 192 people in each showing, which is crazy.
Yeah, I've seen some video of it on YouTube, but I guess I'm assuming you wear 3D glasses.
Yeah. Hmm.
Yeah. So yeah, I mean, you would never really get the effect of really what it was like,
True.
even the visual. Even for watching YouTube. But of course, there's a whole ride and everything. I get that, or you're riding. So yeah. I would like this is one I would like to go on, even though I wasn't a big fan of the movie. I think it sounds like it's pretty cool, and I love Soarin, so I know it's that same kind of maybe same kind of feel, I guess.
Yeah, kind of like Soarin', but you're riding Tron. Like you're leaning over this thing almost like a bike. And so this is another one that if you have large calves or you are have a larger girth, then you might not fit on this attraction. So some people get all the way up there, wait this whole time, and then they don't fit. So you do have to be careful with that. You can test it out when you first get in there and all that. But yeah, it's almost like you're riding the bike on Tron but then moving like Soarin' with 3D glasses. So it is, I
Okay.
wish it wasn't 3D just because that would make me less sick, I think. But it's a really cool attraction for sure. I think the concept is great. And the fact they fit so many people and the actual land, just walking into it and the whole queue, which is very long because they have long wait times for this attraction, is very detailed and really pretty the way that they did it. So yeah, even as not a fan of Avatar myself, it's still a cool ride. So this is one that I get, I get the hype around it for sure. It actually lasts a little over 4 minutes long, which is great. So even though you wait a long time, at least it's not like 60 seconds. And the attraction has four theaters with 6 rows per theater that can seat 8 riders per row, seating 192 riders in total at one time. This is an attraction that does have a lightning lane single pass. So if you don't want to rope drop it or wait a really long time, you can purchase the single pass. And there is a 44-inch height requirement. So you do have to be a certain height to get on this attraction. Some other crazy information about this ride is that because the wait times are so long, you could not get out of line when it first opened to use the bathroom and get back in line, or you couldn't have people like hold your place in line. So people were literally pooping in the line, like legit finding a dark corner and pooping. So in 2019, this became such a problem of multiple people doing this that they added 2 unisex restrooms mid-queue. And so obviously they grossly underestimated like what lengths gross people would do to ride something. And the lines were just so long and people did not want to get out of line that yeah, they'd go in the corner and poop, which is crazy to me. So had you read about that at all, Dad?
I've never heard that story before. That's pretty crazy.
It's crazy. And it happened more than once, which is like what really blows my mind. I'm like, wow, people are wild. I don't know. So yeah, something I thought that was super interesting about that ride. So the next attraction is one of our favorites. It's the Festival of the Lion King, and this opened April 22nd, 1998, so the opening day of the park. And this actually opened back when this area of the park was called Camp Mini Mickey. And then in 2014, it actually got moved to a new theater over in Africa, very similar size. And it did close for about a year during COVID. This show is a musical live performance. It has dancing, puppetry, visual effects, and it is the longest running show at Animal Kingdom. The only one that is left that was original to opening day because Nemo came after Tarzan Rocks. The bird show that they have has changed quite a few times. So yeah, this is the only original show left at Animal Kingdom. And guests sit in 4 different sections. Each section has a specific animal name. So there's the warthog section, the elephant section, the giraffe section, and the lion section. And the 4 animal floats that are used in this show were actually given to the Animal Kingdom from the Lion King celebration parade that ran years ago at Disneyland, which I thought was kind of cool. Guests are asked to make a noise that correspond to their little animal section at certain times during the show, and children are sometimes pulled out of the audience to dance. Now, I don't know that that is still accurate today. I have not been to the show in a long time, but the show is actually hosted by 4 performers dressed in costumes inspired by a traditional African dress. Each has a Swahili name. And so one is Kiumi, meaning masculine and strong, Nakawa, meaning good looking, Kibibi, meaning princess, and Zawadi, meaning the gift. And starting in 2009, Timon had an articulated head, and Simba's front feet started to move. Simba's feet did move originally when the show opened in 98, but then they didn't move from 2001 to 2008. So the movement of the feet was put back in 2008. It's all these little details that I don't even know that I would have noticed. But that was in honor of Disney's Animal Kingdom's 10th anniversary. And it also is a show that is done over at Hong Kong Disneyland, but that's the only other place where this show is done. The Harambe Theater, which is where it is hosted, seats almost 1,500 people, and the show is about 30 minutes long. The theater is air conditioning, but it does have bench seats without backs, which is basically the only downside to this show. I wish that they would put backs on the seats. That's always a bummer when they don't have that. But some fun facts about this show that I read on touring plans was that The Lion King has had 7 live adaptations in Disney parks since the movie was released in 1994. They include a parade, two theater in the round shows, and 4 stage shows. And the show at Animal Kingdom uses more than 136 costumes. All take their inspiration from authentic African prints and fabrics. There are 50 cast members that perform 7 to 8 shows a day, and several of the original actors actually went on to perform on Broadway. The Simba puppet that appears on the Pride Rock float is actually 12 feet tall, so it's a huge puppet. But I remember going to this show, again, similar to Tarzan Rocks, like almost every time we went to Animal Kingdom. It's a really great show because it has all the elements similar to Tarzan Rocks. It had not only just the dancers, but the acrobats, the puppetry, the singing, and it's just a really cool show. But what do you remember about this show, Dad, from when we used to go see it?
I think I've seen it so many times. I could probably, even though nobody would want me to sing all the songs right now, I could probably do that right now
Oh,
and in the
yeah.
order and almost know everything they say, all the narration.
Yeah.
Uh, I thought it was great. There's no doubt we went all the time. I love the monkeys. I love how they got these probably college age gymnast guys putting on these monkey suits and flying around, and they're very talented. They're probably collegiate gymnasts and probably pretty darn good. But if they put on these silly costumes and act silly, they're probably thinking, I got to get a real job someday,
Yeah.
right? I mean, you think about that, it's kind of funny. And I love all of it. The only thing I don't really care too much for was the bird lady and the bird man at the end when they're flying around. It just didn't do anything
Oh,
for me.
really? Oh, I
Yeah,
love that part. That's so
okay,
funny.
right. There's probably a lot of people that love that part. For me, I just thought it was kind of hokey. I realized that there's skill there that I surely don't have. But yes, I always loved the show, and I did see somebody there that's very famous. I don't know if you want me to
Yes, I do want to
mention
hear
that.
about that because all I remember was you spotting this person and saying, I think to mom, like, that's so and so. And I was like, I don't know who that is, some football player or whatever. But yeah, so tell the listeners who you saw.
Well, we were getting ready for the show, and everyone's sitting, and this person and his wife was sitting kind of way toward the back of the bleachers because he really didn't want to get recognized. At the
Hmm.
time, he had kind of really short hair, and it was Kurt Warner from
Oh,
the
really?
NFL quarterback, who's Hall of Fame quarterback, really good guy. Him and his wife, and I remember, and at the time, he just won the Super Bowl.
Oh my
Uh,
gosh.
yeah, he just came from an arena football background. He never was even drafted or anything in college. I mean, this guy late in his career, I won't go through the whole story, but he has a really neat story. Then he actually got to the Super Bowl with the Arizona Cardinals a few years later, again, known for his passing. His passing was amazing, long, long passes. Anyway, I remember looking up and seeing him up there, and he kind of caught my eye like, oh no, there's somebody's recognizing me. I could just see it in his face, and he just kind of turned his head and whispered something to his wife, and I just kind of looked away, and that was it. But after, I wanted to see if I could get his autograph or something. But I know there were some security people there that were with him, and some other fans noticed him too all of a sudden, and he was getting kind of a crowd around him. And I just let it go at that. But yeah, so I saw Kurt Warner at Disney, and I think there was some security back behind him, but I didn't really catch that because I was like, oh, because I always liked Kurt Warner, still do think he's great. So that's my story.
Yeah, that's funny. I know. I feel like the only people that really we've seen have been like NFL people. And then Maddie actually told the story on his episode recently that he saw Taylor Swift like back before she was huge, huge, but walking around Magic Kingdom with a bunch of security and whatever. But yeah, it's always interesting to see famous people walking around the parks and usually surrounded by security. But in a situation where you're sitting in a show and yeah, they could be sitting kind of tucked away, Yeah, that's pretty cool. But
And we
yeah,
also saw, and I know this is back to the Magic Kingdom briefly, we saw Christopher Reeve, who was Superman
that's
and
right.
Somewhere in Time, but that's when he was after his riding accident on the horse, right? Remember, he got paralyzed,
Yeah.
and he
Mm-hmm.
was in this wheelchair. And they announced we have a special guest tonight before uh, the parade that night. And yeah, it was Christopher Reeve, and I remember getting some video of him up there, and he was with his wife,
Yeah, he was
which
up in
was
like the second story of the train station. Is that right?
that is correct. Yes, good memory.
Okay. Yeah, I
Yep,
kind of remember that, and I remember like, yeah, not quite understanding who that is, but Somewhere in Time was filmed on Mackinac Island, right?
that is correct.
Yeah, so Mackinac Island, for those of you who don't know, it's about an hour and a half north of where we grew up in Michigan, where my dad was born and raised, and where we go back every summer. And Mackinac Island is a no cars, only bikes, beautiful place. If you've never been there, put it on your list to go. But they filmed that movie there, so they have a lot of like, homages to that film when you go on the island and fun little, pictures of when they were filming it. But yeah, that's super fun. I do kind of recall that now that you say that about Christopher Reeves and him being up in that, section. That's cool. Well, good. Yeah. So that's, yeah, definitely a favorite show. We talked about that a little bit on the last episode, how, out of this and Nemo, we definitely would pick this if you have to choose between the two because it's just really well done. And obviously, you can't really beat the Lion King soundtrack and the music. It's awesome. So that would definitely be one that you don't want to miss when you go to Animal Kingdom. The Kilimanjaro Safaris is the next attraction that we're going to talk about. This was another opening day attraction, April 22nd, 1998, and this is the longest running attraction at Animal Kingdom. And the attraction simulates a short photo safari. You get aboard this safari vehicle through the Harambe Wildlife Reserve, which is supposed to be in Harambe, East Africa. And while traveling through the large open exhibit, the game driver points out animals and provides entertainment, and various African animal species appear as if they could come right up to the tourists, even though there are a lot of different like troughs and fences that you can't really see because they kind of blend in with the foliage to so that you can't, tell as much. It feels like more of a legit experience, but really just to keep everybody safe. And this attraction was actually built by moving over 1.5 million cubic yards of dirt and planting 2.3 million plants, trees, and bushes to create the landscape, which is just crazy. The African bush elephant and some of the animals that you can see on this attraction include the African bush elephant, the African wild dog, Ankole cattle, black crowned cranes, black rhinoceroses, blue wildebeests, bongos, cheetahs, the common eland, common ostrich, common warthog, greater flamingo, greater kudu, Hartman's mountain zebra, hippopotamus, lion, mandrill, giraffes, Nigerian dwarf goats, Nile crocodiles, okapi, pink-backed pelicans, the sable antelope, the saddle-billed stork, springbok, waterbuck, and white rhinos. So a huge variety of animals. Obviously, you're not going to see all of these every time you ride the attraction, and that's what makes this ride so re-rideable is that you don't see everything every time, and so it's fun to go back, especially different times of the day when the animals are more active or less active. But almost every time we go, we see a lot of giraffes. We often see a good amount of elephants. The lions can kind of be hidden and hit or miss depending on the time of day and where they're at with their feedings and stuff. But yeah, it's a really awesome attraction and some history behind animals being used at Disney World. We have talked about this a few times in our past episodes, but long before the safari existed or even Walt Disney World existed, Walt Disney really wanted to use real African animals for the Jungle Cruise at Disneyland, but because of obvious safety reasons, they decided to use audio animatronic replicas that were placed there instead. And the ride originally included this scripted portion where the safari truck call sign Simba 1 would be contacted by a habitat warden and a scientist to hunt down poachers that had captured a mother elephant and her child. So Big Red and Little Red were the mother and the child, obviously. The poachers would have been captured at gunpoint by another cast member acting as a warden. And they took away this part of the actual attraction and replaced it with scaring off the poachers kind of after this intense pursuit in part of the attraction. But it's funny when Latoya and I were talking with Regan about this, he had like no recollection of this part of the ride. But do you remember when they used to do this Simba one and the little red elephant, and we'd have to try to rescue them from the poachers, Dad?
Oh yeah, I remember that whole shtick. Yeah, and I know they changed it, right? They don't even do that part. I think they cut all that out now, I think, right?
Yeah, yeah, they cut all of that out now, and that was in 2012. They kind of announced that the little red portion of the ride was going to be taken out because they basically had this truck with a little animatronic elephant sticking its head out of the back, and now that's gone, and that's just like another zebra area. So it they did actually remove those zebras from that area a few months later because of acclimation issues. I guess the zebras were like fighting each other, biting at each other, or vehicles standing in the road and causing issues. So now what is there today in that section are just more antelope, and that's almost at the very end of the attraction. And during cast previews of the Animal Kingdom before it opened, there was actually this quote unquote dark and scary ending in which the safari vehicle would encounter the corpse of Big Red, which is horrible. So she was on the ground, symbolizing the poachers got her, and the tour group was too late to save the mother elephant. So despite, even though it was like a statue, this scene was obviously too depressing and sad for families and little kids. So they got a lot of complaints, and so Disney removed the corpse to give the attraction a happier ending, which I thought was crazy that they would even think to do that in like this little kids park. I know they're trying to drive the poaching problem home, but that was a little intense. So around 2007, they did change the Little Red script before it was removed in 2012, but they from 2007 to 2012 it was more just animals in the reserve, less of this pursuit. But they actually had this whole part before that where you would go on this bridge and the bridge is still there, but sometimes you would stop, the bridge would shake like as if it was going to break. And they were like, oh, we got to get out of here. And they'd like hit the gas. But again, all of that is gone now. It's really just a safari experience, which I think is fine. I mean, do you really have a say in it one way or another, how you feel about the attraction with or without the whole little red thing?
I would go on it no matter what. I'd even go on it with the corpse of Big Red on there, doggone it.
Yeah.
I mean, I really like it because you're seeing, Disney's known for the animatronic and the animals that are, fake. But to go see real animals like that you typically aren't going to see in the United States, right? It's pretty darn cool, and it seems like you get a different feel and a different vibe every time that you go because the animals you can see different animals, see them in different situations. I think it's really well done, and the ride is really long, so you really
Yeah.
get your a lot of bang for your buck for a change on a Disney attraction. So that's pretty
Yeah.
cool.
Exactly. I agree. I think it's awesome. Definitely my favorite ride in all of Animal Kingdom. And Kilimanjaro Safaris typically operates until sundown, but they did have this holiday season in 1998 where they continued the safari at night and dubbed it Kilimanjaro Night Safaris. But a lot of the animals were asleep and you couldn't really see them very well. And so they tried to do this different script and storyline. The new attraction featured different animal sounds and reflectors hidden in the foliage so you could see their like eyes basically with like night vision, and an actual African dance troupe who performed around a bonfire in the area where usually the elephants were, but they were asleep. But it only ran that 1 year, and after that they were like, this is too expensive. You can't see anything. A lot of people complained. So they decided not to continue that at night, which makes sense. I mean, the animals need to rest. They take them back in, all of that. So that was very short-lived. And then between 2007 and 2009, the trucks were actually extended with an extra row of seating to allow for more capacity because this ride, again, is extremely popular and can get to be a long wait time. In July 2010, it was announced that guests would be able to go on guided treks around the savannah, and this would include areas that are not part of the regular ride experience. And this extra tour is something we can cover on another episode, but I got to do it. It is really cool. I experienced this back in 2015, actually right before Maddie and I got married. And this was one of mom's bucket list items. She really wanted to do it, and it was a really awesome experience. So we'll have to talk about that on like an extra behind the scenes tour edition of an episode. But in 2016, the night safaris were reintroduced as part of the expansion of Disney's Animal Kingdom and trying to drive this into being a full day park. And the nighttime changes included the sunset animal sounds, the introduction of hyenas and painted dogs to the reserve, and the ride path was shortened for the night safaris in order to avoid areas where there would be no animals visible. But again, this is very rare that it's actually open past, close to sunset or sundown. This one is an early closer for attractions. And often when they have extended hours at Animal Kingdom, it's only the Dinoland area and like Everest and Dino and Avatar. So you kind of have to look and see for the extended Animal Kingdom hours. It's not always super worth it to pay extra money for that. It is the longest ride in all of Disney World, but it actually is tied for first. Obviously, the lengths kind of depend on if the animals get in the road, how long you spend interacting with animals, but it averages about 21 minutes long. Do you know what the other longest attraction in Disney World is that's about the same runtime, Dad?
That's a good question. Another one in Disney World, so it could be in
That's
any
still
one
open. Mm-hmm.
that's still open.
Because I think Backlot Tours was probably pretty long too, but and Ellen's Energy Adventure, but those are closed.
Small World?
No. Good guess. You're in the right park.
Ah, it's long. What else is long? Everything seems so short in there.
It's in
Uh,
Tomorrowland.
it's in tomorrow. Oh, Carousel of Progress.
Yes. Yep. So Carousel of Progress is 21 minutes and some change long. That is considered an attraction and it's considered a ride on the Every Ride Challenge. Unfortunately, it's a time eater. But yeah, that is tied for the longest attraction with this. So not show, but ride, I should say. That's considered a ride as well. So yeah, that's the other long attraction. But yeah, again, like you said, good bang for your buck. It's one you can ride over and over again and not get tired of. So we really love this attraction. Maddie actually said this is like one of his top, 10, maybe top five, I think he said, attractions in all of Disney. He really, really enjoys it. And I think it's just different than going to a zoo and seeing animals. They're kind of like in what feels like more of a natural habitat for them. So yeah, it's been a really cool ride that has held the test of time for sure. And then the next attraction is the Gorilla Falls Exploration Trails that's presented right now, sponsored by Off Repellents. This opened April 22nd, 1998 as well, which obviously opening day. And this trail is a self-guided walking trail through the Pangani Forest. Along your way, you'll encounter a variety of African animals and learn about Disney's global conservation efforts. And it is right next to the safari's exit. So in August of 1998, the name was changed to the Pangani Forest Exploration Trail. And then in May of 2016, the trail reverted to its original name, which is what it is today. Kind of depends how long you take to go through the attraction. It's a walkthrough attraction, but about 20 to 30 minutes usually. And there's more than just gorillas, even though it's called the Gorilla Falls Exploration Trail. They do also have colobus monkeys, exotic birds in the screened-in aviary section, fish under the pathway and in ponds, mole rats, meerkats, hippos, giraffes, zebras, and more. And the hippos are the same that you might spot if you ride the Kilimanjaro Safari's attraction. There's kind of on the other side of this area. The food is not allowed on the trail because obviously that could, make for some issues with a bunch of birds and animals behind these fences and stuff. But wheelchairs and strollers are allowed and are able to experience the entire attraction. It usually does close a long time before the park does, so it's pretty early as like 4:30 p.m. So check your My Disney Experience app each day for the closing times. And I do remember walking back here on this, but I don't have great memories of this. I'm sure this is another thing that we were kind of running from attraction to attraction and maybe did once or twice, but didn't do super often. Is that probably accurate, Dad?
Very accurate. I don't, I think we ran through there once or twice when you were really
Yeah,
little. And I think there's a little areas where a cast member would show you some scientific
information
thing or
thing.
learn
Yeah.
something. Yeah, you know, I remember something like that. But yeah, we didn't spend a whole lot of time on the trails. I definitely did more a little later on, maybe after like 2010. wandering through there when it got real busy in there. It was a good place to kind of escape some of the crowds and walk through. And seeing the gorillas and things, I thought was extremely interesting. And
Yeah.
one of the trails I remember had really large bats, and I don't know if that was in here or
Oh,
not.
interesting. Yeah.
But I don't remember which trail, but obviously they were in, it was kind of a screened in area. But it was super cool. And there were super, really large bats. I forget what type of bats, but it was pretty cool. So
Yeah, that is cool. And then Rafiki's Planet Watch is the next attraction, another original attraction, April 22nd, 1998. And you get to Rafiki's Planet Watch by taking the Wildlife Express train, which is a 7-minute train ride, over to the conservation station and the affection section. And it's the only way to experience Rafiki's Planet Watch is by using the Wildlife Express. And the conservation station kind of gives a behind the scenes look into the animal kingdom animal care facilities, including this veterinary examination room, complete with two-way communication systems so the vet staff can answer guest questions. They also have an animation experience over here, and the animation experience is where guests take this 25-minute class learning how to draw different Disney characters, which they have in a few different places throughout the parks. There is a section here that includes animals like butterflies, tarantulas, scorpions, millipedes, lizards, snakes, mantises, cockroaches, beetles, tortoises, and more. And then you can also go over to the affection section, which is a petting zoo that features goats, sheep, chickens, cattle, donkeys, and pigs. And this is the area where you can actually interact with the animals and a place where, you can literally pet most of them, or occasionally you can feed them. They have different things that you can, feed them that you can purchase and all that. But the train does run nonstop starting about 30 minutes after park opening. The last train departs from the Harambe station at about 4:30 p.m., which is on the like where you load side, and that's the last train that goes out and then comes back around, but otherwise they don't bring anybody else out usually after that time. Guests can stay in their wheelchairs and kind of wheel right onto the train. They have ramps to do so and motorized scooters or ACVs when you board the train. The characters that are available to draw in the animation area rotate, and sometimes special ones are drawn for a limited time during the premiere of like a new TV series or release of a new movie. Obviously, a lot of times they're things that are animal themed, so like Lion King are very popular ones for them to have to draw. There used to be a little show area, and while the structure still exists, they don't actually offer any shows there right now. It's very small and there's very limited seating. Now it's just kind of used for people to sit around and, eat or whatever they need to do over there. So yeah, that's kind of a little bit about the Rafiki's Planet Watch. I remember going over here a couple times as kids. Did we ever do this animation experience, Dad?
I don't remember. I probably would remember that since I like to, as a kid, I like to draw a lot. I don't remember ever doing that, but I remember riding on the train, and I believe you faced like straight out, right? You
Yeah.
didn't
Mm-hmm.
sit like a regular train, like you said, on little bleachers.
Yeah.
So that was kind of weird, but but yeah, I remember going there and going to the petting zoo, and you get to pet everything, and I'm sure I was joining you because I love animals. And we took Makayla there a number of years later when she was little. She really enjoyed it, but I've probably been there maybe 3 times, the whole time it's been open. That's all, and it's been a long time ago. But I think it's great, especially if little kids. I think it's really cool.
Yeah, yeah, definitely a cool little section that a lot of people miss because it's kind of tucked away in the back. And yeah, the train does face out, so because this rides or this moves, it is considered a ride, and so we have to do it for the challenge. So it's always a little bit of an extra, thing that we have to think about because it closes so early. So it's considered what they call an early closer, and so is the safari because again, that's not usually open, after sunset and sometimes even closes before that, like dinner time or so. So it's always things that we have to kind of consider when we're doing a challenge run. But yeah, we got to ride it just in December. And when we were kind of rolling through and facing outward, we did get to see actually a good number of animals, some rhinos. I believe that we saw some other animals too. The rhinos are what stood out to me the most that you could see from the train. But yeah, it was cool. We obviously didn't get off. We stayed on and kept riding because we were in a hurry, but it would be something cool that I'd like to take the kids back to next time we go to Animal Kingdom. And then moving on to the dining in these sections of the park. So the first place is called Pongu Pongu, and this opened May 27th, 2017. It's a quick service beverage stand that offers things like Navi-sized pretzel, which is really just a giant pretzel, with beer cheese sauce for $13, a Pongu Lumpia, which is like pineapple cream cheese spring roll. Lumpia is kind of like a Filipino type dish. One of my coworkers makes it a lot, but this is like a sweeter version with pineapple in it for $3.79. And then there's the Night Blossom, which is a non-alcoholic specialty beverage that has layers of apple and dessert pear limeade topped with these boba balls, as well as some alcohol options like Moara High Country Ale Draft Beer, the Hawks Grog Ale Draft Beer, a Rum Blossom Bacardi Superior Rum, and then I'm trying to skip through some of the descriptions of these things. The Moara Margarita Suaza, and they all these drinks except for the beers, all the like other drinks have those boba balls at the bottom. So this is obviously in the Pandora section. The other restaurant in the Pandora section is Satuli Canteen, and this is pretty popular. This was opened May 27th, 2017. They do have breakfast as well as lunch and dinner. The breakfast is slow roasted pork shoulder with potato hash as well as cinnamon French toast, frittata and beef, and a tropical Pandoran fruits, forest fruits, which all kind of range from $12 to $15. The lunch and dinner options are these bowls, and they have things like smoked chimichurri braised beef, wood grilled chicken, an ocean moon bowl, chili garlic shrimp bowl, a smoked chimichurri braised beef with chopped wood chopped wood grilled chicken bowl, cheeseburger steam pods, which I've heard are really good with bao buns, and chili spiced crispy fried tofu bowls. And all of those options kind of range from $14 to $18. But I've heard the bowls are very good. I've heard the cheeseburger steam pods are pretty good. We have not tried any of these options while we've been there. And the desserts are this Met Cayena mousse, which is a flourless chocolate cake with chocolate mousse and raspberry gelée, mango coulis, boba pearls, and a milk white chocolate garnish. And then they do have a blueberry cream cheese mousse, which is blueberry cream cheese with passion fruit, and both of those are about $6 to $7. Some drink options here include the Pandoran Sunrise, which is pineapple juice and Minute Maid limeade blended with Powerade melon and Powerade fruit punch. So basically a bunch of fruit punch with some pineapple juice, or a bunch of Powerade with some pineapple juice for $5.79. And then they do have more options for alcohol here. The Elu Splash Margarita, the Banshee Chardonnay, some different wines like Pinot Noir and Sonoma and stuff, as well as some different beers, including a local place from St. Pete, Florida called Three Daughters Beach Blonde Ale, and some different Elysian Space Dust IPAs. So a few different alcohol options here as well, but both of these are more quick service. They don't have a sit down restaurant in that area. Then there is Mahindi, which is just a popcorn stand that also serves chips, cinnamon glazed pecans, and almonds, and has some bottled beverages and beers. There's the Dawa Bar, which is in Africa. This actually originally opened with the park April 22nd, 1998, and then was refurbished and relocated December 2013. And they mostly serve specialty cocktails like the African Margarita, the Lost on Safari, the Nugmu Jungle Juice, and they have the Tusker's famous Jungle Juice in that, the Harambe iced tea. So those are the kind of the options that this bar serves. They do also have some imported draft beers, bottled beers, and specialty beers, as well as red and white wines. That's never a place I've noticed. I guess it's somewhere in Africa, not somewhere we usually would stop. The next place that's on the list is somewhere that I actually really want to try for breakfast. It's the Tusker House restaurant. And this opened April 22nd, 1998, but has kind of closed and reopened at different times throughout the park's life. Breakfast is a character dining buffet, and it's $33 for kids and $49 per adult. The characters that are there include Donald Duck, who is basically the host, Mickey Mouse, Daisy Duck, and Goofy. And the foods include African-inspired breakfast creations, which some of them I was like, I don't know what this is, so I had to Google it. But shakshuka, which is poached eggs in a spiced tomato and pepper sauce and then there's boba tie, which is spiced minced meat baked with an egg-based topping, which kind of reminds me of a quiche. These South African bulkies, which are like cinnamon rolls twisted. They look delicious. And they also have other just generic American breakfast favorites, like they do a cook to order omelet area, which is pretty cool and right up Maddie's alley. Scrambled eggs, potatoes, bacon, sausage, ham, Mickey shaped waffles, of course, Simba waffles, pancakes, and mango apricot jam, cake, chai spiced croissants, guava danishes, chocolate chip muffins, bagels, and fruits. So this character breakfast kind of took the place of Restaurantosaurus doing a character breakfast. So they kind of moved it over here. It's a little bit of a larger space. And they do also have breakfast cocktails here at an additional cost. And some things that they serve are African Bloody Marys, blackberry orange spritzes, island fusion punch, cold brew martinis, sunrise margaritas, pink spritzers, and the legacy mimosa, as well as a lot of other different specialty cocktails, wine, and beer selections. Is this a place that you've ever been to, Dad, for breakfast with Michaela, or no?
I think we did, yes. She was probably pretty small, maybe she might have been 4 or 5 years old. We
Okay.
didn't do this sort of thing very often, because a lot of times we just go there for a day and then come back. But yeah, because I remember Donald Duck and Mickey and Daisy, Goofy all being there, and it was. You're right. It took the place of the Restaurantosaurus, I think, at the time that we were there. It was very
Mhm.
similar to that. It was, the food is great. Yeah, yeah, it's very similar to the one we took you to when you guys were real small.
Okay. Yeah. Yeah. It looks like it would be a pretty good option. I can't think of any other breakfast place, I might be wrong, that does cook to order omelets like that. Can you think of anywhere else that we've been that does that? Usually it's just like the buffet.
Right. No, I don't. There might be, but I haven't eaten at all the Disney restaurants. But I've eaten at quite a few, but I don't remember any of them doing that, which would be
Yeah.
super cool.
Yeah. I'm gonna have to look it up, but that makes it maybe easier to sway Maddie to try it because he loves omelet or, when they cook it to order.
Right.
And then lunch and dinner are also served there. It is not character dining though. It is $42 per child and $64 per adult. And they do this bread service as well as salads as the appetizers. The entrees include things like split roasted tandoori chicken, beret marinated pork, green curry shrimp, Doro wat, braised beef, tagine. Plant-based offerings include North African palu, South African spiced cauliflower, couscous salad, potato and pea curry, carrot ginger soup, and kids' picks are things like meatballs, mac and cheese, chicken strips, broccoli, and potatoes. The sides include things like a rice pilaf or a North African pilau, I guess you say it. Spiced broccoli, red, which is like a from Ghana, a bean stew dish. South African spiced cauliflower curry, and they do have desserts like cheesecakes, blondies, verines, mousses, and plant-based desserts. So for me, the lunch and dinner does not sound like anything I would necessarily want to eat, but I have heard people like it. I think it's just, kind of an eclectic taste, but the breakfast sounds right up my alley. Then we have the Kusafiri Coffee Shop and Bakery, which opened again with the park April 22nd, 1998. And it's usually only breakfast. It opens about 8 till about 11 a.m. or so and serves things like egg and bacon croissant sandwich, breakfast tachos, which are basically like tater tots that they make into like nachos with different stuff on them for breakfast, overnight oats, tater tots by themselves, fruit cups, colossal cinnamon roll, pistachio honey croissants, a chocolate twist, and a plain croissant, all kind of for $5 to $11 each. And then right nearby is Tamu Tamu Refreshments, but it is a separate line. And this was another original to the park on opening day. They serve things like blueberry muffin, colossal Mickey cinnamon roll, sausage, egg, and cheese biscuit, guava and cream cheese danishes, honey pistachio croissants, as well as plain croissants, chocolate twists, and this is $5 to $8. But they serve coffee, which includes African coffee with Amarula cream liquor if you want it. So yeah, just a couple of little quick stand breakfast places. The colossal Mickey cinnamon roll sounds awesome and right up my alley. They serve this in a couple of places in the park. Have you ever had one of those, Dad? The Mickey shape, like where it's the ears and the base are all like little cinnamon rolls?
I haven't, but the next time I go, I'll have to get one.
Yeah, sounds amazing. And then the last dining opportunity in this section of the park is the Harambe Market and Fruit Market. This includes things basic, theme park snacks, hot dog, Mickey pretzel. They do also serve Baby Bell snack cheese, fruit cups, whole fruit, mandarins, assorted chips, churros with chocolate sauce, which are all about $3 to $7 each, and then bottled beverages and assorted beers, which the beers are about $10 to $11 each. So this is just like a little spot actually right outside of the safari. It's kind of like this open air market area where you can stop and grab some snacks. There actually are no characters in this section of the park. All of the characters in Animal Kingdom are kind of in the first sections we talked about. I'm surprised that they don't do more characters. Like, why don't they have a Timon meet and greet or Rafiki over here on a more permanent basis? I feel like that would be a great idea, but I feel like they used to. And Rafiki sometimes is in like other areas of the park, but we definitely met him as kids.
Yes, I remember. I think we have some pictures of you with Rafiki, don't we?
I'm
We
sure
must.
we do. I'm gonna have to
Yeah, I
look.
know. Yeah, I always thought it was funny because he was, yeah, it was whoever played the character did a great job. But we ran into Rafiki quite a bit over there.
Yeah, yeah. And then the old versus new. So we kind of talked about this a little bit already, but would you prefer the safari as it is or the safari with the little red adventure portion?
I think for the kids, the whole little red thing was kind of fun. So I kind of wish they'd kind of, and they never will. We know that. Bring it
Yeah,
back, right?
yeah,
Whatever. They never bring anything back, right? But I kind of like the little red thing only because it made it more of, what's going to happen. And I know you kids are kind of a kick out of that. And I think most kids would. And the whole poaching thing, I'm sure it's still a problem in Africa, maybe in probably a lot of countries, but that kind of gives an education of all that to people too. So I'm
yeah.
not sure why they kind of pull that out. They must, who knows why? I have no idea. But yeah, I prefer the little red version.
Okay. Yeah, I'm gonna say the version as it is now just because it's, something a little bit different as far as you get to see a little more animals than the attraction, but I like both. So, it's kind of a hard pick. I'll just pick the opposite just for fun. Our trivia this week, the question is, what was the first animal born at Animal Kingdom? I actually don't know the answer to this. Was it a majestic kudu, a sprightly gazelle, a cute elephant calf, or a graceful zebra foal? Oh boy.
I have no idea, but I'll go with elephant.
Okay. I'm gonna say a kudu just because I don't need, that's like an antelope kind of thing. I'm gonna say that. I don't think it was a zebra. It was a kudu. Ooh, okay.
Good job.
That was a
Yeah.
total guess. Total guess. Okay, well, thank you guys so much for listening this week, and thank you again for helping us get to 50 episodes. Look out for our 1 year celebration coming up here in just a couple of weeks. And if you don't already, go ahead and give us a follow over on Instagram at Soarin' Around WDW Pod, where we do fun reels each week for the episodes, as well as throwback photos, and then get into our old versus new. We have fun polls. It's a really good time over there. And if you would like a shout out on the podcast, be sure to leave us a review on Apple. We'll start to read those as they trickle in since Apple was kind of a newer adventure for us, as well as some comments on Spotify or on YouTube. We love hearing what you guys have to say, what your favorite parts of the park were, and let us know in the poll this week, either on Instagram, on Spotify, or in the comments on YouTube. Do you prefer the Safari as is, or did you love the little red version? We'd love to hear what y'all's thoughts are as well. But thanks again for joining me, Dad, and I hope that everybody has a great week.
See you next week.
Hey, thanks so much for listening. If you enjoyed today's episode, be sure to give us a follow on Instagram at Soarin' Around WDW Pod, where we share fun reels, throwback photos, and dive into our old versus new debates. If you're listening on YouTube, don't forget to like, subscribe, and drop a comment. And for our Spotify listeners, a follow and a 5-star review would mean the world. If you're listening on Apple, hit that 5-star button and leave us a written review as well. Thanks again for joining us. See you next time.